The government has already shelved the bill. That would be the end of it. It would not come back. So why should there be amnesty for the arrested? Isn't that an erosion of rule of law? You said you're going to give me time, right? So you let me finish.
This is a heated discussion that we're having.
No, even
this is
though
a heated discussion.
You've got to give me a chance to answer your question.
I gave you plenty of time.
Well, you stop interrupting, then I can answer.
Weeks of mass protest in Hong Kong show no sign of coming to an end. But how long will Beijing put up with it? My guest this week here in the city is Ronny Tong, a member of the Hong Kong government's cabinet and a senior advisor to its Chief Executive, Carrie Lam. Do the authorities now accept that the new extradition law, which provoked the crisis, should be scrapped now and for good? Ronny Tong, welcome to Conflict Zone. 2 million people on the streets of Hong Kong. Failures by the Hong Kong government, admitted by the Chief Executive, Carrie Lam. Why is she still there? Why hasn't she resigned?
Well, I think this is a more complex question than simply asking why did she not resign. First of all,
someone fails in their work.
About the 2 million.
Someone fails in their work, they go, don't they?
No, I don't want to argue about the figure, but a more accurate figure would be more like 500,000. But even then, it's a very, very large number of people out on the street. And I think the government accepted that. The second thing is that we must understand what the government have been trying to do. A poll did by one of the more mainstream newspapers of the people who turn out in force to march on Sunday revealed that 90% of the people who marched thought that the extradition bill was to enable the Hong Kong government to send people back to China for trial for criticizing Beijing. Now, they couldn't be more wrong.
I want to get into the extradition bill.
Let me just finish this. This is an extradition bill.
Yeah, I understand.
This is a bill about extraditing people who committed a crime across the border or outside the border of Hong Kong, comes to Hong Kong, and we need to have a legal framework to see how we would deal with it.
I want to get into that in a minute. I want to get into that in a minute.
So the bill has got nothing to do with any of the freedoms or core values of the people in Hong Kong. If that is so, why? If that is so, why should the Chief Executive resign?
Because she has admitted deficiencies in the work of the government.
Look, you tell me, which government leader in the world have not made mistakes?
These are huge mistakes. No, you tell me. These are huge mistakes.
Well, no.
And we now have the chairman of the Liberal Party saying that you should resign as well.
The bill said very clearly that it's got nothing to do with the core values or freedoms of the people of Hong Kong. Now, the government has not done its explanation thoroughly enough. True. That is because of the fact that we need to deal with a particular criminal who is about to be released very soon, and that basically impacted the period of consultation. Now, that is not ideal, I accept. But this is not the sort of thing that you say that because it's a huge mistake, therefore the Chief Executive ought to resign.
Well, now, somebody ought to resign. Maybe you ought to resign. Why?
Why is it? Why do I need to resign?
So you're rewarding failure then?
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not admitting I am guilty of any kind of failure.
She admitted deficiencies in the work of the government. I personally have to shoulder much of the responsibility, she said.
I'm sorry.
This has led to controversies and anxieties in society.
No, I'm sorry. I mean, you are being unfair.
Really? I'm quoting her. Is that unfair?
No, you are being unfair.
What's unfair about that?
Well, she is basically saying that she has not done the consultation thoroughly enough. That is not something that any government would take the blame and say the whole government or the leader or the Prime Minister, whoever, should resign. As I say, which government leader in the world have not made mistakes? Right?
Mr. Tong, now, you push an extradition bill. I want to follow up on what you said about the extradition bill.
But you must give me a chance to answer your question.
I did. I gave you plenty of chances.
An interview of me, not an interview of you. All right?
I gave you plenty of chances.
You
push a new extradition bill that was widely seen as an attempt to remove one of the key legal safeguards of Hong Kong's way of life. I know you do. I know. You scoffed at all objections from far and wide, from some of the most respected legal institutions here and internationally, didn't you?
You're putting it very unfairly. The present bill, the present statute I don't know whether you've read it or not. You probably have not, because have you read it, you probably wouldn't have put the question the way you did. The present law was enacted not by the SAR government, but by the British colonial government before the handover.
We're talking about the amendments.
No,
We're talking
I'm talking about the statute.
I'm talking about the amendment that you have been pushing.
No, I'm talking about the statute. You must read the statute, all right, to understand what is going on. If you haven't even read it, you don't understand it, and you don't qualify to put questions like that.
You said...
Now, let me just finish. I have not finished.
Yeah.
You said you're going to give me time, right? So you let me finish, right? Okay. The statute was enacted by the British colonial government. It followed very closely the resolution of the United Nations in 1990. Are you saying that the United Nations was suggesting that Hong Kong should do something which is contrary to human rights and core values and freedoms? That is, of course, not true. Now, come to the amendment. What the amendment did was not to change the legal framework. All it purports to do is to extend the applicability of the statute to China and the rest of the world.
A lot of people aren't buying that.
Well, you are
the
not
Hong
buying
Kong
it, quite
Bar
obviously.
Association.
Well, you are obviously not buying it.
The Hong Kong Bar Association isn't buying it.
Let's talk about facts and not talk about opinion. All right?
I'm talking about opinion.
No, I'm talking about
very
facts.
Respected organisations, Mr. Tong.
I respect
the Hong
their
Kong Bar
view.
Association, the Hong Kong Law Society, the Law Society of England and Wales, the International Bar Association's Human Rights Institute, Fair Trials, the Defence Extradition Lawyers Forum, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, all of them challenged the suggestion by your chief executive that the amendments you want to make to the Hong Kong extradition laws are in accordance with international human rights law. They all challenged that.
It is. If you
and you're the only one who sees the truth?
No, but
you're the only one who sees the light?
That is correct.
Yeah, yeah. From a rule of law point of view, you would think no one, let alone lawyers, would object to this amendment.
Exactly.
That's what you said.
Because, as I say, it follows what,
So all your colleagues know nothing. You're the only one who sees the light.
It follows what the United Nations provided each member state to do. And we are following the precise regime as the US regime, as the UK regime, Canadian regime, Australian regime, and nobody is making any comment about those countries.
I understand that. I understand that, Mr. Tong.
You think that the judiciary in Hong Kong is not up to the work that it has to do?
It's not my opinion. The opinion of your own
but you've got to look at the facts.
Hong Kong Bar Association
is putting a travesty of the facts to me.
So the Hong Kong Bar Association is putting a travesty of the facts,
I think they are not looking at the law. They are not looking at the fact
all these eminent
that
lawyers have got it
independent
wrong, have they?
judiciary is capable of doing a proper job of gatekeeping.
You say that these any decision that is made by the chief executive is subject to confirmation by the Hong Kong courts.
No, you get it completely wrong, for God's sake.
Really?
Go and read the statute.
What is wrong about that?
Because
you claim that under your proposed amendment...
You got the facts wrong.
You claim that under your proposed amendment, no criminal suspects can be extradited without confirmation by the Hong Kong courts.
Can I say now? Can I answer your question now? You got all the facts wrong.
What facts are wrong? What facts?
The fact is, if you look at the statute, you know that the chief executive has no power to order extradition. It's clearly spelled out in the statute, for one thing. Secondly, all that the chief executive can do is to refuse extradition. Do you understand the word refuse?
Exactly. That's the final decision, isn't it?
Refuse?
That's the final decision.
No. He or she can only refuse extradition. He or she cannot order extradition. The only institution which can order extradition is the courts.
Mr. Tong, your own bar association points out that the magistrate in Hong Kong...
by the way.
I understand.
There are past chairmen who do not agree with this.
I understand. The magistrate in Hong Kong, they say, does not have the jurisdiction...
There are many past chairmen who do not agree with this.
The magistrate in Hong Kong, can I get the question out? The magistrate in Hong Kong, says the Bar Association, does not have the jurisdiction to inquire into the quality of justice that the fugitive may enjoy once surrendered. Why am I going wrong? I'm quoting what the Bar Association says.
This is where you've gone wrong.
Really?
You are only talking about the committal process.
Yes.
The law has got two processes. One is the committal process. The other is about safeguarding and the protection of human rights and fair trial, which is being provided in Section 5 of the statute.
As the UK Law Society pointed out, insofar as the proposals would introduce any human rights examinations at all, they are vested in Hong Kong's chief executive, who would lack or appear... Really,
that is wrong.
It's wrong. So the UK Law Society got it wrong.
That is wrong. Please pick up the statute, have a look before you come to me and ask me questions.
You're absolutely right that the judges and magistrates of Hong Kong wouldn't dream of currying favour with Beijing. They leave that to people like you, don't they? You want to curry favour with Beijing.
That is wholly unfair. It is not only unfair to me, but this is really extremely unfair to the judges. Judges are there to carry out the law. If they can't carry out the law, they have no business being judges. All right? I have no power whatsoever. I'm merely an advisor to the government. I have no power because even the chief executive herself has no power conferred by the law. I keep telling, and I haven't said it sufficiently or enough times, you have to look at the law to understand what are the facts. If you don't understand the facts...
And all these eminent organisations have looked at the law.
It's what other people say.
Yes, yes, because their opinions matter.
No, I don't think so. The facts matter. I'm sorry. Facts matter.
The Law Society here in the UK doesn't matter. None of these opinions
they are based on
matter.
a travesty of the facts.
And the UK Law Society, who writes that the proposals in the extradition bill fundamentally imperil the operation of the rule in Hong Kong, rule of law in Hong Kong, they've got it wrong as well.
Yeah, I think
they
so.
don't understand anything.
Why do they think it would imperil the rule of law in Hong Kong? If all that is happening is that the task of scrutinizing any request for extradition is to be considered by the judges.
Mr. Tong, what kind of fair trial is available in the mainland? What kind of fair trial?
Well, fair trial, what the government has proposed is to ensure that there would be open trial, that defendant would be
an open trial on the mainland?
Yes, open trial.
Since when do they have open trials on the mainland?
Are you letting me answer the question or not?
Yeah, I am.
But so please don't interrupt. That's very, very unpolite. All right? I've never been...
This is a heated discussion that
we're having. No, even
this is a heated discussion.
You've got to give me a chance to answer your question.
I gave you plenty of time.
Well, you stop interrupting, then I can answer. I'm telling you that the government is proposing to ensure that there will be assurances of open trial. The defendant will have the choice of his own lawyer. The trial has to be proceeded on the basis that it will be in the language which he understands. There would be visitation rights. All these, the minimum guarantees of Article 14 of the ICCPR. Do you know what ICCPR is? International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, right? It's a charter for human rights. The government is saying that...
Which China has not ratified.
No, I'm not talking about China. I'm talking about Hong Kong, because the gatekeeping is in Hong Kong.
Well, I'm talking about what kind of... I asked you what kind of fair trial... I asked you what kind of fair trial that a defendant can expect in the mainland.
I'm telling you that if there is no guarantee that there will be the minimum requirements of Article 14 of ICCPR, it is written in the law there, then the court has no business of ordering an extradition. Even if the court were to order an extradition, the chief executive would veto it. Because as I keep repeatedly telling you, that the chief executive has no power to order extradition, but has power to veto an order for extradition. Are you following?
They're unlikely. The chief executive is unlikely to veto a request from China.
Based on what fact do you say that is unlikely?
Well, she's an appointee of China, isn't she?
So?
So is she going to stand up to China suddenly and say this cannot go through?
Based on what basis do you say that she would not do that?
Based on the human rights record in China, the civil and political rights in China that continue to be eroded.
To China? Has she ever ordered an extradition of any suspect to China? Has she?
You tell me.
No, you tell me.
I don't know. You tell me.
I tell you that there has not been a single occasion that happened.
We're talking about when it does happen.
No, it's not going to happen.
We're talking about when it does happen.
Because the law prevents her from doing so.
Did you read the latest human rights reports about what happens in China?
Did you read the UK report in 2011?
I'm asking about the human rights report.
Did you read the UK report 2011?
I'm asking about the latest human rights report.
The UK Commission says that it is paramount that you should respect each member state's own judicial system.
Even where those civil and political rights are being eroded in China?
No.
The continuing detention and trials of human rights lawyers and defenders?
I'm telling you, both in the UN resolution and in the UK report in 2011 made it very clearly that protection of human rights and extradition are not mutually exclusive. That is why that you've got to frame your legal regime in the way that Hong Kong is doing to ensure, and the gatekeeping is in the local judiciary, not in anywhere else in the world, to ensure that any suspect, any offender would be entitled to fair trial and protection of human rights when the extradition is being carried out. That is the way in which all extradition arrangements
Mr. Tong.
Is being carried out the world over.
Mr. Tong.
No country is different.
Mr. Tong, what expectation can there be of a fair trial in China when civil and political rights, according to the latest British Human Rights and Democracy report,
I don't want to sound offensive.
rights continue to be eroded? Can I just read what they said? The continuing detention and trials of human rights lawyers and defenders, lack of due process and judicial transparency remained important concerns.
I don't want to sound offensive.
How can you have an expectation of a fair trial for anyone that is extradited to the mainland?
I don't want to sound offensive, but how can anyone expect a fair trial to be had in Syria, Iraq?
We're not talking about Syria and Iraq.
Libya?
We're talking about mainland China.
No, it's the same regime.
No, it's not.
No, it's the same. Why do you say it's not?
Let's just stick with China. Let's just stick with China.
No, why do you single out China?
Because this is the whole point of the protests
this is not the point.
that have been taking
the point
place
is the
in Hong Kong,
gatekeeping is in
isn't it?
Hong Kong. Hong Kong people will apply the same standard no matter who is coming to make the request, be it United States, United Kingdom, Syria, Russia, China. We apply the same standard because this is what the law requires us to do, and we will do it, period. If you understand the purpose of extradition, you would have understood what I'm saying. But obviously you don't.
What's your guess, Mr. Tong, instead of sort of throwing insults at me, what's your guess about where this is headed? Will the hardliners in Beijing try to teach Hong Kong a lesson?
No.
Or will they show that they're willing to learn one from what's been taking place?
First of all, the facts say that it did not come from mainland. I think the Chief Executive has explained very clearly that it was her own initiative, based on the fact that she was asked by the family of the girl who unfortunately was murdered by this Hong Kong person in Taiwan. Because of the whole injustice of the situation, the Chief Executive agreed to look into it. And she was asked to establish an extradition regime which can apply to Taiwan, apply to the rest of the world, which includes China.
But China is very exercised about what's been happening here.
No.
It's called it a direct challenge to the one country, two systems.
If you were right, China would not have permitted the Chief Executive to shelve the bill. Right?
How long will that go on?
Well, as far as this administration is concerned, I understand that it's not going to come back, period. It's dead.
In the last few days...
So just tell me, right, if what you say were true, why would China do it? The fact is...
You don't know what China is going to do, do you?
I do more than you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come and asked me for an interview, would you?
In the last few days...
If you had known all the answers, you wouldn't have come to me, would you?
In the last few days, Mr. Tong, the Hong Kong Bar Association has called for a credible commission of inquiry, not the Police Complaints Council, but a statutory independent body that can compel documents to be submitted and witnesses to testify. Is that going to happen? Is there going to be a commission of inquiry? I'm not sure whether that's going to happen or not. Do you want it to happen?
Because, yes, I have made clear that I'm in agreement with that request. But the CAPO, the IPCC, the Independent Police Complaints Council, has already embarked on a full inquiry. There is only one investigation subject, which is the police. The police has already promised that it would comply with all requests and provide full cooperation. The government has made the same promise. So that inquiry would be a very sufficient inquiry. But if at the end of the day...
But not to the protesters. They say that's not sufficient.
Come on.
And the Hong Kong Bar Association says it's not sufficient.
The only thing you know what to say is to quote the Bar Association without looking at the facts. And this is the difference between us. I'm asking you to look at the facts.
They look at the facts.
So what? You have not looked at the facts.
And you keep telling them they're talking rubbish.
I didn't say that, but I don't know what facts they looked at. But I'm telling you what the facts are. All right? Now, if at the end of the day, the IPCC inquiry proved to be insufficient or inadequate, then of course we can look at to see whether there are other ways to implement or to improve what is being done. But an inquiry is going to be carried out. Right? So
and
why
also
do
an
you want
inquiry into what the Hong Kong government did or didn't do?
Well, that is being looked
How
at
it failed?
by everybody.
Its own deficiencies? Right? No, it's looked at by an independent
the government
statutory
has already
body.
said that it's going to change its ways to listen more and try to gauge more public opinion.
Why didn't it listen before?
It has listened before, but this particular
20
incident...
days consultation, that's all
I have
it's
already
got.
explained to you why that is so. Have you heard my explanation? It was because that this criminal was to be set free in September, and he's going to leave Hong Kong if there is no law in place. That is the reason, and the only reason why there have been insufficient consultation.
What about the demands from the protesters now? What about their demands?
The government has already shelved the bill. That would be the end of it. It would not come back, right?
So it's finished?
It's finished. It's dead.
And what about the demands from the protesters? Scrap the bill, independent inquiry...
The bill is as good as scrap.
Independent inquiry into public police
that's already
violence.
IPCC
amnesty
inquiry.
for the arrested.
Why should there be amnesty for the arrested? Isn't that an erosion of rule of law? You've been telling me that the rule of law cannot be eroded. So you're now telling me...
I'm not telling you anything. I'm putting their demands to you.
You're asking me about rule of law, and you're asking me about why is it that people are arrested for crimes committed, serious crime committed, including
we don't know that.
Of course,
there is a presumption of innocence, isn't there? Is there no presumption of innocence in Hong Kong anymore?
Have you watched the TV tape? Have you watched a TV tape?
There's also a presumption of innocence.
No. Have you watched the TV tape?
Yes, I have watched the TV tape.
So
but that's
have you
neither here nor
seen
there.
people throwing bricks? Right?
There is also a presumption of innocence.
No, but
isn't there?
If somebody has thrown a brick...
You're telling me they're guilty anyway.
No. You wait for me to answer you. I mean, why are you being so unfair? Why you keep putting questions which are...
You're quite able to answer the questions. There's nothing unfair about it.
My damnness to try to answer your question. I'm asking you, if there is a clip which shows somebody has thrown a brick, that means somebody has committed an offense, right? Now, whether that person is rightly arrested or not is for the court to decide. So you can't say that somebody has been arrested, that arrest must be wrong. That has got nothing to do with presumption of innocence. You understand that. I understand that.
Mr. Tong, a few days ago you were warning...
And you're trying to evade the point.
Mr.
The point is that if you got somebody who's being arrested, let the court decide whether he's guilty or not by simply asking that you should let him go without going through the due process of the law is an extreme erosion of the rule of law. And you are sitting there on your high horse and you're telling me that the bill is eroding the rule of law, and yet you are putting to me at the same time that giving freedom or letting the arrested go free is not an erosion of the rule of law. How can you have such double standards?
You warned a few days ago that if things got worse, the Chinese army might consider taking to the streets. You said when there's trouble in Hong Kong, when things turn sour and there's violence in our streets, our fear is that if the police are unable to control what is happening here, there's a remote risk the Chinese army would get involved. How remote is that risk? And if it's so remote, why did you mention it?
No, I hope it will never happen.
Why did you mention if it's a remote risk? Are you trying to frighten people?
No, it's a fact. Everybody understands that except you. You don't understand it. Hong Kong is a place where it is operating under the one country, two systems. It is
not very successfully, is it?
It's a huge political compromise. We are part of China. Under the basic law, China has a responsibility to ensure that Hong Kong is stable. Everybody who is doing business here wants to see Hong Kong to be stable. All right? So, yes, under the basic law, there is provision for the Beijing government to interfere. Nobody hoped that it would happen. I'm trying to say that we are trying our utmost to avoid this happening. So I'm not instilling fear into people's heart. I'm simply reflecting what is stated in the basic law and what is the political reality of the situation.
You said we in Hong Kong.
That is a perfectly responsible thing to do.
You said we in Hong Kong need to gain the trust and confidence of Beijing so that they can allow us the freedom of political reform.
That's right.
What about the other way around? What about Beijing's duty to earn the trust of people in Hong Kong?
Well, it runs both ways, isn't
Where
it?
they haven't managed it very successfully, have they?
It runs both ways.
22 years they haven't managed it successfully.
No, I think that's unfair. I mean, they've been doing their utmost to try.
Well, the opinion polls all show that people do not, the majority of people still do not identify as Chinese. They identify as Hong Kongers.
The Beijing government
hasn't been
has
successful,
to work on, isn't it? Everybody has got to work harder.
You think the people of Hong Kong should play nice to their masters in Beijing and they might throw them a few crumbs in the way of political reforms?
Words. The words I use is that we should communicate with each other and we should instill confidence in each other. That's what I'm saying. You understand the difference?
Ronny Tong, it's been good to have you on Conflict Zone. Thank you very much.